Are you ready to ditch the wedding rule book? In case you missed it, in part 1, which was last week, Monty Haron, the whip-cracking celebrant, blew our minds with his unconventional takes on ceremonies, and he introduced the idea that tradition is just peer pressure from dead people, and he talked about ways that you could change that. So now in part 2, he's getting tactical. How do you actually implement alternatives to heteronormative wedding customs? Monty's here to share practical advice on everything from rewriting the processional to dealing with family expectations. If you're craving a wedding that reflects your authentic self, this episode is packed with inspiration, a little bit of swearing, and real-world tips to make it happen. Let's get stuck into it. Unbridely is a community of pro-wedding vendors who believe in freedom and integrity in weddings, giving you options, solutions, tips and tricks to create the experience and memories that you and your fiancé really want and deserve. Because we believe that weddings are a team sport. With how-tos, stories and interviews with recently married couples, we find out what went right and what they'd change if they could go back and do it all over again. I'm Camille and welcome to the Unbridely podcast. So what about when we get into the reception and you've got all the first dances and you've got the daddy, daughter, mother, son, and then you've got the... Have you given advice on those sorts of things and how LGBT plus couples can get around those expectations?
My advice doesn't really change, whether it's hetero, same-sex, whatever it is. It's just, if it means nothing to you, don't do it. So is it like non-negotiable for me is like, and it's even in the contract as well, that myself and the couple will be the only ones talking at their ceremony, which kind of means that no, you don't get to give the mic to auntie, uncle, brother, whoever it is, to read some shit from Google. And that's just how I do my thing. But it's because they've got me to set a certain tone and bring that energy and that vibe. And it just gets railroaded if there's somebody else comes in and does something completely different. So don't do something if it doesn't mean anything to you. It's always the pressure from somebody else to have a reading or a poem or whatever it is in the ceremony. But it's the same for the reception. You know, we need to do this, we need to do that. And if you actually Google that, you know, if you Google reception run sheet and then you Google each different item there, the bouquet toss, the garter toss, all those things, and actually find the, you know, traditional historical meaning of those things.
The meaning behind it. It's terrible.
So messed up.
It's so bad.
Like,
who was it? Do you know about the cake cutting?
No, I don't think so.
Let me add to the terrible.
Yes.
Okay. Because way back when I started the podcast, I had the lovely Nat Sproul, celebrant from Victoria.
Yeah.
Bloody legend. We were talking about this and she's going, yeah, it's filthy, it's filthy. And what about the wedding cake? What about cutting it? And I went, I have no idea, Nat. What is it? And she goes, oh, well, it represents the breaking of the hymen.
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, I know. I'd honestly blocked that out of my mind. We covered this on our podcast too. And I was like, oh my God, as soon as you said that, yeah, there's a reason that got blocked out of my mind.
You've gone all PTSD and you've gone, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I never heard that.
I know. And, you know,
it's just.
Okay, but this is my brain. Throwback to guests asking me, normally family, normally parents, at the start of the ceremony, which side do we stand on? Where the groom's going, whatever. Or even on Tuesday, two brides, which side do we sit on? And I honestly, my response to every single one of them is, no one gives a fuck, because today ain't about you. And that might be a bit abrupt, but it doesn't matter whichever way you dress it up or down. It is what it is. Nobody actually cares which side you sit on.
No.
You're here because you love them. Just fucking sit down.
Yeah. Can you see where you are? Great.
Yeah.
Then that's the right seat for you.
Yep. And if you can't hear, get closer. Like.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But it sounds so abrupt, Monty. Like I was saying that to my couple on the weekend. they're going, which side? Which side? And I thought, I'm not going through why we had sides,
Yeah.
100 years ago. I'm not. And I said, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah. No.
And they're like, oh, across the face.
Because when they're asking what side, they don't actually know why they have to pick a side. And there's so many, those signs have been around for ages. Pick a seat, not a side, all of that stuff. But people are still so convinced that they have to.
Yeah. Well, if we can get anything across, there's nothing to do with breaking of your hymen if you cut a cake. And just sit in a chair that's close to you, please. So there's our message.
I am going to come back to the ceremony. I got one thing there, but
Yeah.
back to the reception. The, cutting of the cake, and it just basically even, go through the run sheet. Google, reception run sheet and look at those things and think, do I even want to do that? Does it mean it? Cutting of the cake. I'm not saying don't get a cake. Everybody loves cake.
No. I love cake.
The difference between cutting it at 7:30 and making everybody sit there and eat it when they've just had canapes or grazing board canapes, 3-course dinner, and it's now 7:30, 8 o'clock, and you're trying to force feed them cake so that it doesn't get wasted. Waste of fucking time, waste of money, waste of everything. Instead of making it a whole thing where you cut the cake for the photo, why do you even want that photo? It's not for you. You're not going to hang it up on your wall. It's not going to the wank bank, nothing. It is not a penny dropping photo, and nobody cares for it. So still have your cake if you like cake, but just have it. My couple on Tuesday, they made a point of not cutting it. They had it there on the table, the whole reception, and then they told the caterer, because the venue kept asking, when are you cutting it? When are you cutting it? We're not. Take it out, cut it up, bring it back.
I'm not a chef.
Yeah. So anyone that wanted to take a photo of it took a photo, but it was not an event because it meant nothing to them. So they still wanted it for later. So, that back to dances and all that sort of stuff.
Dances, speeches.
It's so much pressure from other people, even get it all the time. Oh, we have to either invite this person because the parents said, or the biggest one, and it shits me, Dad has to walk me down the aisle because if I don't let him, he's not giving us any money for the wedding.
Yeah. Oh.
And I said, well, if that's the case, make some fucking budget cuts and do what you can do without his money, because that is just the worst thing to hang over your child, is to say, if I don't get to walk you down the aisle.
Why would you say
and
that?
It's always in a strange, relationship, usually because the dad was a piece of shit, ran off, whatever it is. And it's like, he doesn't deserve to walk you down the aisle.
Wow.
Like, what's he doing giving you away when he ran away? Like, it just, so, but then obviously there's so many complexities to that, but it all comes back to, if then just don't do what they want to do and hold firm on that and make their own decisions and, do things that mean something to them. It doesn't matter what they do, they're not going to be happy with it. So,
yes.
They're going to feel guilty if they don't have a dance with whoever. But in reality, they're not dancers anyway. They don't, they don't do that bullshit slow shuffle with a dad they're not that close to, or a mum that's actually
That's the thing. And they don't even want to be physically close to them because it's uncomfortable.
Exactly. And even if they've got a great relationship, they don't want to be close to them in that dance because they don't want 100 people staring at them having a moment like that.
Yeah. It's just, in this day and age, it's so incredibly antiquated still. But I do know a lot of couples who go, I'm so thrilled my dad's walking me down the aisle.
Yeah.
It means so much to both of us. We've chosen this particular song because it means something and blah, blah, blah. There's, for some people, it still means a lot. And then I'm like, well, I'm not going to hate on you for doing that. If you love it and that's like what you picture and it's what you want, then go for it. But, the point of having this chat with you, Monty, is just going, well, not everyone has that fairy tale thing.
Yeah.
So what's right for them?
Exactly. And that's it. What's right for them is what feels right for them. Not what somebody else has done, not what somebody else has told them to do, not what American movies show you, not what history tells you. It just what feels right to you. You know, I've had, oh God, I'm just trying to think back to like my most favorite moments in, you know, which is the opposition to tradition, where it's
Yes.
just, you know, couples.
It's the middle finger. I love it.
It is 100% just people that do things so differently. And I get so excited and I voice this to my couples when they come to me with an idea. They say, hey, we're just wondering if this would be okay. And my first, before I even, you know, read it, I was like, fucking oath. It's okay.
Let's go.
It's your wedding. And then I get into it and I was like, it's more than okay. This is the best idea I've ever heard.
This is brilliant. I'm writing this down.
Yeah. And it purely just comes back to them doing something that means something to them and means something to their guests.
Yeah.
Either to make them feel included or to make them feel loved
Yes.
or whatever. One of my favorite weddings was when I was as Moira Rose, and the dress code was wear whatever makes you feel fucking fabulous. And this couple had met at a swingers party, and most of their guests had met at fetish swingers and kink parties. So that theme for them meant that there were a lot of them in cosplay outfits. And, you know, it was the wildest. So when they ripped that robe off me and I was wearing a gold chain bondage harness, it was the most outrageous thing I'd ever worn in my life, let alone at a wedding. But it did not get a reaction from the guests. It was just like, oh, great. He's comfortable in his skin, as are we, wearing what we're wearing. Like, let's just, you know.
You didn't even get a cheer?
You did get a cheer, but it wasn't like, oh my God, I can't believe he's wearing, like, it was just so normal to them in that crowd.
It wasn't hide grandma's eyes, she's going to faint.
And that was such an incredible experience because for me, it was, you know, like, yes, I'm gay, but I know nothing about that world. It's a completely different world. And so when I married these two girls and learned their story and how they met and all the ins and outs and, you know, and then they've got this incredibly, you know, kind of supportive and inclusive friend group and family group. And it was such an eye opener to me. And yeah, just incredible experience. And same thing. They just did what felt right to them and also what they knew what would feel right to their guests. And because of that, everyone had an incredible time.
Yes. Yes. But as you said before, it doesn't have to go on the completely wild side of the scale. You know, it can be mild, but if that's them, then that's perfect.
100%. And sometimes they want me to be that. That's why they get me, is because they know that I can test the boundaries or test the waters or whatever in a way that, you know, like find where the line is, never cross it, but dry hump the shit out of it. You know, like that's
nice.
And by the time they get to the reception, everybody's on a really good level, you know, like just.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, on a high. And so, you know, let's talk then about, so inclusive entertainment ideas and things like that. Are there, I mean, is it a bit, what would you call it, stereotypical to think that there's going to be a big drag show at every wedding reception?
I've married a lot of same-sex couples, never been any. I guess so, because if they're booking me, then that's like they're booking me for the entertainment. So,
you are the drag show.
Yeah, like, and so they haven't, but I'm sure that, you know, there's plenty that do book, you know, maybe a more low-key celebrant, and then they get a drag queen in for the reception, and, you know, like.
And they build the energy there.
100%. But I've never been at a wedding where they've had a drag queen come to the reception. Oh no, sorry,
just one.
2 months ago, that was the first one.
Oh really?
Oh God, Kitty Glitter or Clitty Gitter or
Clitty Gitter.
I think there was Clitty in there, or maybe that was the thing I couldn't say. I said don't introduce her as Clitty Glitter, but it was Kitty Glitter. Anyway. Drag queen DJ for their reception, and that was like a massive thing for all of their Sydney crew and, you know, well-known Sydney DJ, and so that was a big surprise in the reception. So, you know, came in, did the show, like, you know, the performance, and then went to DJ, and it was pretty incredible. But shy of that, I haven't actually had that at a wedding.
See, some of my couples, like, I've had a couple of guy couples, and they've just gone all out for the reception. And it's just shy of a rave because I don't think there's enough people to quantify a rave. But like remote controlled wristbands that flash in time with the music and different colours
wow.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And so all the red people over here,
Yeah.
all the, like,
That's so fun.
yeah. And confetti cannons and like,
So from my experience, my gay couples, same-sex guys, their weddings generally are more conservative than you would think and what I would think, and especially with me and what they get me to wear and what they get me to say and do and all that sort of stuff. I honestly think it's like they don't want me to take any shine away from them. So they want me to, like, they would put me in my cage. And it's like, you've got to wear pants and, like fucking boring.
oh no.
But then on the flip side, my lesbian couples are generally the wilder ones. They really just, so that the full drag Moira Rose, that was a lesbian couple. Tuesdays was incredible. I wore this gold vest thing with Wonder Woman cuffs and then change of outfit for the reception. So I literally walked in, cracked the whip in my assless chaps, and away we go for the reception. And then again, I've had a few couples that identify as trans, and theirs is even more kind of, I'll say vanilla, like conservative, because I think they're so very incredible wedding where at least 80, 90% of the guests didn't know that one party to the marriage was trans.
Oh.
So I had to tell the story about this couple that fell in love, and visually and how they now identify is man and a woman, husband and wife, male and female. But one had transitioned from female to male, and a very high percentage of their guests did not know. And so I had to talk about, tell their story, referring to them in their own story with the pronouns that they were at the time.
Yeah.
And then that change in pronouns from when they transitioned. And it was just such a delicate balancing act, but so fucking beautiful. One of my favorite weddings, but it was probably the toughest one I've ever written, because, that obviously that journey for them in that transition was such an experience that, even as they are today, they know they haven't always identified as a male. So no, you can't talk about me 5 years ago as a male, because I wasn't. There was a lot of complexities there, but because I think it was one of those, had to be very delicate about how I told the story, which was, going to be kind of a pretty shocking revelation to a lot of people. But in the same time, we're celebrating the love that these people have and the fact that they're getting married. Yeah. And it was received so well. It was, everybody was just so happy for them. And that comes back to the couple inviting the right people in their life to their wedding. So that was, really great to see. But also, I think overall, they probably went for a more, kind of low key, wedding, rather than there being, they've not got the drag queen and they've not got, whatever else going on, because I think their story in and of itself was, kind of the big part of the day. And it's just, I don't know, it was just such an experience and so incredible to be part of.
It sounds like it really moved you, Monty.
And for me, like, I've, been gay for as long as I know, but I know fuck all about the transgender community. And when I think, how, whenever I think that I had it tough growing up in the country as a gay guy, and then I think to myself now, fuck, I had it so easy compared to being somebody that was born into the wrong body and not being able to, express that or even understand that, because it's such a kind of taboo subject still. And then I think, like, I really did have it easy, as tough as I thought it was at the time. And I have a very little education about that word still, because it's not immediately kind of, which is just...
Yeah, but you've got, see, this is it, Monty, and this is what we we're talking about wedding vendors earlier. You've got empathy.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all you need to have.
And so meeting this couple and hearing their story, and then the amount of extra hours and work and research and conversations with other vendors in the community that went into their wedding to make sure I didn't fuck up with what I said and how I said it and all those sorts of things, which, some people think, how do you not know? I was like, because I'm not transgender. I've never been through that. I have no idea what they've been through. Literally none.
And yet I'm representing them almost like a PR agent up the front there.
100%.
Yeah, you can't misrepresent someone like that.
And the thing is, I had the most pressure on myself than anyone there.
Yeah.
So it, made it.
They loved you, right?
Yeah, it was incredible.
They loved you and you fucking nailed it, right?
Yeah. It's funny. I've got this thing of, I always get very stressed before a wedding. I'm very last minute. Ceremonies don't get written until the day of. I don't know what your process is, but, the ink's very much wet when they're walking down the aisle. If they're walking, and my housemates just laugh because I'll be in a mad flat before, racing out the door. Sometimes they've got to iron my clothes for me or, do the buckle up on the chaps or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then I'll walk through the door and they'll just always ask me now, what do you reckon? Best one yet? And I was like, fuck yeah, it was. They just know that the more stressed and the more pressure I have on me before I go means that the more chance I'm going to say that's the best one I've ever done. So, yeah.
But that's how you operate.
That's it. If it ain't broke, don't try and fix it.
Do you know what one of the biggest regrets of newly married couples is? They'll say, I wish I had more memories from my wedding day. It was my favourite day. And one of the smartest ways I've seen couples do this is by making sure that they arrange a quick, foolproof, and really simple way to collect and share their guests' wedding photos. Because if you think about it, with an average wedding of, say, 100 guests, with every one of them taking 5 photos or videos, I mean, they'll take much more, of course, but I'm talking about the good ones. That's an opportunity for you to collect and download 500 extra photos and videos of their perspective on your wedding day. The stuff that happened that you didn't even get to see. But your barriers are overly complicated instructions or processes. Let's face it, if it takes too long, forces your guest into registering, if you've got to use a certain social media platform, or it's just a pain in the ass, and I'm looking at you, Dropbox and Google Drive, your family and friends just won't do it. And the tech fear and privacy concerns too, because no one wants to download yet another app that has a data breach. Never Miss Moments is an essential resource for busy, soon-to-be weds just like you. Your unlimited photo and video gallery is held in a secure server for 12 months, and for your guests, it's a one-click QR code solution. There's no app to download, no need to register, and it's quick. Win-win. Your guests will be able to look back on and reminisce about your wedding, and your fam and friends' different perspectives of your wedding day is such an incredible lifelong gift for you too. The team at Never Miss Moments are obsessed with giving you the very best customer service, and I'm stoked to be able to pass on their special 10% off discount offer on their galleries when you go to nevermissmoments.com/unbridely. So that's never miss moments, all one word, .com/unbridely, which, in case you don't already know, UNBRIDELY. The discount will show up in your cart automatically. And of course, I'll pop the link in the show notes for you as well. So I feel like you've already covered it off, but I'd love for you to say it again. I've got the question written down here. How can couples address potential discomfort, unfamiliarity from guests who might expect traditional customs at the wedding?
Tell them to get fucked.
Correct. Yeah. Ding, 10 points. And then just, do you have any advice for those couples who are listening, who are going, okay, what do we do? How do we do it? Do you have any advice for them as far as blending cultural, gender, sexual identity elements into a beautiful, cohesive ceremony first, but then wedding? What would your advice be?
I think regardless of who you are, how you identify, straight, gay, whatever it is, just make sure that every element of your day, from who you invite, the color, the style, the language, the invites, just so many things, the dress code. Just make sure that it means something to you. And if it doesn't, cut it, cull it, get rid of it. Because otherwise you're creating a day for somebody else that you're paying for. And why the fuck would you want to pay 20, 30, 40, 50, $60,000 for a day that you don't enjoy and that you don't feel comfortable at and that your favorite people don't feel comfortable at? So don't get peer pressured, and it's normally by your parents, to do whatever it is they want you to do. From walking you down the aisle, if you don't want to do that, don't do it, to making you, dance with them or let them do a speech at the reception, or because, and I have found this a lot of people in the, LGBT community don't have a great relationship with their parents because their parents are of a different generation. So when we get to the, I mentioned earlier that I roast the shit out of the I Do crew, and my whole process with the ceremony is to make sure it's heartfelt and hilarious in equal sort of, it's like a wave. So if we do a fun bit, then we do a nice bit. Fun bit, nice bit. So after I roast the shit out of the I Do crew, we normally acknowledge and thank the parents if the relationship permits. And it says this clearly to them in the questionnaire.
If they're worth
And it
thanking.
also says, if your parents are shitbags, we will leave this blank. And a lot of the time with my same-sex couples, they say, leave it blank, parents are shitbags, relationship shit, and it's just, it is. And I understand that, so 100% not going to do that. Or there's one part of it that's messy and the other side's not, or whatever. So then I offer suggestions as to, well, how do we do that without making one feel, more included than the other? And, the easy example is, dad walks bride down the aisle. Mum feels like shit because she doesn't get any inclusion in that. So it's not just about us trying to make an inclusive, wedding environment for same-sex couples. There's still so much exclusivity that happens because it's just tradition that dad walks down aisle, whatever.
Dad gets the speech. Dad gets the dance.
Exactly. So to counteract that, I say, all right, well, dad's walked you down the aisle. That's very special to him, probably. That's great. He'll sit down. We'll start ceremony. Once I've roasted the shell, the I Do crew, then this is the moment where you can acknowledge and thank your mum and make her feel like a superstar, because otherwise she's probably not going to get a single mention the whole day. And it actually means more than you think. Oh, just mention thanks, whatever. The fact that the effort was put into actually acknowledging her, and particularly if the relationship is broken down between the parents, that dad's a prick and he still walked her down the aisle and now
I'm the one who raised you. That story is like really common.
It happens so often. It's one little thing, one little acknowledgement mention, takes 30 seconds, but it makes a world of difference in that day.
And to their relationship, like
Everything.
for all of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, the big picture is if it doesn't mean something to you, and if somebody's going to get offended by what you do at your wedding, don't invite them. They should not be there. So I did have one little thing I wanted to throw back to the ceremony. So part of, getting everyone involved and, it's probably from American movies, you just think, oh, you can't be vocal in a ceremony. You've got to just stand there like a stunned mullet in a church like we've seen. And if you make your tiniest little noise, you're going to get death stared by the minister or the priest or whatever it is. And I tell my guests at the start of the wedding, if they are silent, they're going to ruin the day, and everything's recorded, which means the couple are going to be able to see who ruined their day forever and ever. So don't be responsible for that. That's generally how the chat goes. And then I tell them there's audience participation, non-negotiable. I'll say a line, they'll yell it back. And there's two parts. One's at the start of the ceremony, they just raise their glass or hand and, basically pledge to be the best wedding guests ever. That's training for a bit we do at the end, where once they've done their rings and vows, and it might be the same for you. One of my favorite moments, in the ceremony was when I actually got pronounced a couple as marry. And, there's terms, husband and wife and wife, husband and husband, lovers for life, so it was just incredible, like a really cool thing to be able to do. But then I thought, well, hang on, if I love this so much, maybe they will too. So that's where this audience participation came in. They do that guest pledge at the start, which is training that I just don't know it yet. For a bit, they do at the end where the guests actually pronounce the couple as married. So the last, couple of lines of it, with the love in our hearts, we will love you for life. We're happy to pronounce you as husband and wife and wife, lovers for life, husbands for life, whatever it is. But basically, it rhymes. There's all the different terms. There's every variation of it. So it can, it's inclusive to everyone.
It rhymes, so it's true.
That's it. But it's just another little thing that means can make a lot of people feel special in that moment. And
because it's a rush.
Yeah.
There's such a rush, don't you think, when you get to pronounce a couple at the end?
Yeah, and that's what everybody's waiting for too. Like, it's
so powerful. And to be able to share that.
And I think that just a weight lifted off the couple's shoulder. They're like, oh, thank fuck for that. Like, yeah, that's it.
That's beautiful. That's so good, Monty. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to let you actually, have you eaten?
Nah,
had
that's
dinner?
right. I got
What's the routine here?
9:30 dinner's pretty standard here because we all work late and that's not unusual.
Very European of you.
I just didn't have a 3 o'clock siesta today, which I'm very upset about.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, yeah, you got half an hour, mate. Tell my listener, if they want to know more about you, if they want to find you, if they want to ship you to the other side of Australia to marry them, where can they find you?
Holy Matrimony. So just like Holy Matrimony, but you just sneak a little T in there. Holy Matrimony, all the socials, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Google. I don't really know the rest of them. I think it's not Twitter. There's no OnlyFans yet. No, that's...
Hold out for that, listener.
Yeah, so wedding business. I've also got a podcast, the Two Montys podcast, because believe it or not, there's another bloke named Monty in Newcastle who's also a celebrant. So we do a podcast and a charity wedding together. And yeah, I think that's it. That's where you'll find me. The cowboy boot wearing, whip cracking celebrant.
I was going to ask you, Monty, like what is next for you in between everything that you already do?
People ask me this all the time, and I genuinely do not know. Like, because if you look at my, quick backtrack on my career, finished school, went to work for an artificial breeding company doing artificial insemination, embryo transplants, and pregnancy testing for cattle. Did that, then moved to Newcastle, got a job in a cafe. And within 3 months, I managed a cafe and did that for 2 years. So I had a hospo career and then got into the weddings. And in the meantime, have been truck driving. So I had a trucking business that I ran through COVID. So I bought a truck, went carting grain and fertilizer and manure because couldn't do any weddings for 2 years. And then I think that sort of ticks off most of the things, but very wild.
Who knows?
Big gear shifts.
Watch this space.
In careers, and who knows what I'll be doing.
So cool. So cool, man. Really appreciate your insight and love how straightforward you have been. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Bloody pleasure, mate. Okay, bye-bye.
Have a great night. See ya. Bye.
That about wraps it up for this episode of the Unbridely podcast. For the links and resources we mentioned, please head to the show notes. And if you love the show, please review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're on now so you don't miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, weddings are a team sport. Catch you soon.